someone when I tell them, I'm having a blue day, I can't seem to be happy. I can't, seem to function, or my anxiety is really high and I'm like, I'm feeling really anxious today. I've had people say, just cheer up. And what I hear when someone says just cheer up is, you're the problem. This is not something that is out of your control. This is something that you can fix. Just cheer up. Like, oh, dear God, why didn't I think of that? All this time I've just been sitting here not being cheerful because I didn't know that I could just cheer up. So it's kind of like, I understand that other people want you to be happy. I understand that they want you to not be sad, but the way to deal with someone, or not deal with someone, but the way to interact with someone who has been living with a mental health problem, um, it's to listen to them. It's to allow them to talk. It's to allow them to express. We talked about, I don't remember if we talked about this last time or the time before, but we talked about, if you know someone who has depression, anxiety, any other flavor of a mental health issue, then you could ask them, when they are not struggling with that on a daily basis, what are some things that I could do to help you whenever you get into those kinds of states? And for me, if somebody did that for me, you know, it would just instantly cheer me up, even if I was already having a good day. It's one of those things that it's just something that is very, very helpful, very nice. So saying things like, just relax, or use these essential oils, or go take some vitamins. And uh, side note on vitamins, because one of the things that I went through when I was having pretty severe depression, I did have a vitamin D deficiency. So it is important to get lab work done and to get those kinds of things tested, to see if you have a deficiency that might be worsening the condition. But typically, I don't think a vitamin deficiency causes that depression. So, don't tell them, oh, just drink more water. Like, they're really tired. All right. So I have a coworker who has uh, some thyroid issues. And today she was really tired. And knowing what I know about her, then this is a physical thing, it is not a mental thing, but knowing what I know about her, it's like she's super tired and then found out that she hadn't taken her pills in a couple days. And so that's one of those things that you can't just tell somebody who has a thyroid condition, hey, go and, walk around the block and it'll wake you up. Because that's not going to affect what is actually making them tired. It's the same if you tell somebody, just cheer up, or drink some more water, or, go do some yoga, try to relax. It's that kind of thing that it's not addressing the problem, and it could actually make it worse. So Fee says, when people tell me to just cheer up or try to do things that make me happy, it makes me angry and more depressed and even less motivated to do anything about it. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Those um those kinds of things, while they are well intentioned, and while I always appreciate the intention behind things, or try to acknowledge and appreciate the intention behind things. If you're saying that, if you're saying something like that to someone who is already filtering the world around them, the people they interact with, the obstacles in their way, whether that's traffic or a delayed flight or something else, and if they're already filtering a daily interaction in a negative light, saying something like just cheer up isn't really going to help that. Um, so there's Joshua Klapow, which I like his name anyway. He's a licensed clinical psychologist and associate professor of public health at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. He says there's lots of wrong things to say to someone who is depressed, but to me, if you're at least saying just cheer up, you're at least acknowledging that there is an issue. And so if you can understand how to say things better, that's great. But the worst thing you can do is completely ignore it. That's the absolute worst. Like, there are worse things than saying just cheer up. Completely ignoring an issue and pretending like it doesn't exist, I think is worse. Um, you know, if you tell somebody just cheer up, you're kind of telling them you just need to have a better attitude. You need to care about yourself. You need to stop being so selfish and have that better positive attitude. And it's like, okay, but it's not that I'm to blame for what the mental health struggle that I'm going through right now. It makes it a, you know, saying just cheer up. It's like they are intentionally being depressed, which is never the case. Well, I won't say never because, of course, there's exceptions to every rule, but it's not the case. People are not intentionally depressed. And so when you say just cheer up, you're also kind of calling them weak. You're saying, look, if you were stronger, you would just be happy, which is not true. I mean, hopefully everybody knows that that is just flat out false. So Clopal talks about in the eyes, and this is a quote from an article. He says, in the eyes of an individual with depression who's already filtering everything from a negative perspective, the idea that they are purposefully and willfully doing this can be devastating. And that's one of those, that's one of those things that I wish more people understood. I wish that more people would get that when you say they're almost flippant statements, kind of like, oh, just, whatever, just do this. You know, you're you're really making the problem a little bit worse, which is very frustrating. So I know for me, even if someone just asks, what can I do to help you through this? That helps because even if they can, at least they acknowledge it and they're not just blowing it off. Absolutely. So somebody saying, what can I do? Even if my answer is, go the fuck away, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to anybody. While that might come out of my mouth, what's going on in my head is that this person is acknowledging that I'm struggling. This person is saying, I care about you. And they're saying, how can I help you? And even if I push them away, like it's still something that goes into my head. Like it doesn't just go in one ear and out the other. It goes in and I process it and I feel it. And so that is really helpful. Just cheer up is kind of in line with a casual, how are you? Especially if the person knows you're struggling with your mental health. Like when you toss out, how are you? Like it's not a very hurtful question. It makes me feel like you're just trying to show you care without investing in caring. Oh yeah, all the time. All the time. People will say, hey, how are ya? And then if you try to actually have a conversation with them, it's like you're inconveniencing them, which is really frustrating, by the way, just as a general societal commentary. Like if you're gonna ask me how I am, and you're not gonna stick around for me to tell you how I actually am, just say, hey, it's good to see you. Yeah. Oh, I feel horrible. Thanks. Exactly. Yeah. Hey, how are you? Oh, I'm just really doing pretty shitty right now. And then what are they supposed to do? So, um, so there is a licensed master social worker named Karen Whitehead, and she provides some examples of what you can say to a friend who's battling their depression on any given day. One of those is, I don't know how you're feeling. Even if you think that you do know how they're feeling, you say, I don't know how you're feeling, but I'm here to listen. And then actually listen. Don't don't just say, "How are you?" and then stop listening. It's kind of like, I'm here to listen to you and actively listen. Another one that she lists out is that must be really challenging. What's the hardest part? So that piece of, okay, I told you I'm here to listen, and now I'm trying to get more information out of you. I am pushing myself to understand what you're going through and see if there's any way that I can help you. So get a little curious about what they're going through. And here's one that we kind of talked about before. You may not know right now, but if you think of a way I can help, please let me know. And just saying that, you know, even and that goes back to that. If you're struggling, if you struggle on a regular basis and you know that there are some things that um, help you stay focused in whatever state you're living with, write those down when you're not in that state. you know, it's and And it would be helpful if you gave them to a friend and told them that. And then the last one that she lists out is, would it help if I just came over and visited instead of going out? And that one's a really good one as well, because if you're if you're talking to someone who has anxiety and you're trying to make plans to go out, well, what if their anxiety is telling them, man, I really don't want to go out right now. This it's just, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if I do the wrong thing? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I disappoint somebody? I don't want to go out, but I feel like if I don't, then I'm going to disappoint this other person. So saying, would it help if I just come over instead, is one of those things that could be really powerful. there's um there's a really good template on mentalhealthamerica.net. And if anybody needs it, I would be happy to share it. And this is how, as a person who is living with a mental health issue, how to talk to someone that you want to talk to, but you just don't know how to talk to them. And so it's kind of a template sort of thing. Um, it starts off, for the past X amount of time, I've been feeling this emotion I've struggled with, and then you list out symptoms. Telling you this makes me feel, nervous, anxious, hopeful. But I'm telling you because I'm worried about our friendship. I'm worried that what I'm going through is going to damage our friendship without me being able to communicate that to you. I would like to talk to a professional. I would like to find a support group, and I need your help to do that. And then, so you would like that template? Absolutely. I will send this template. I'll put this template in the chat, and then afterwards, I'll also post them to the Discord. So look for those later. So there, if you are mentally prepared to listen to someone talk, you're mentally prepared to listen to something that might be uncomfortable for you to hear. If someone is going to talk about their mental health um, experiences, you know, that's going to be a difficult conversation, both for the person who's telling and for the person who's listening. Come over and bring me food. That's a good one too, right? Like, just come over. And I know that whenever I've been in a depressed state, it is harder to do things like cook. Just eat a healthy meal. That becomes very difficult sometimes. Um, and maybe you resort to Lunchables, but maybe you also haven't had the motivation to go to the store, and maybe you don't have anything in your house to eat. So, just being aware of those kinds of things is super helpful a lot of the time. And then, you know, I mentioned this earlier, but try to be curious. Try to understand. And when I say try to understand, it's not just listening, it's really digging into that. Okay, what are you experiencing? What emotions are you going through? Share those with me so that I can understand and maybe respond in a way that's better than saying just cheer up. Because, like I said, that is super, super uncool. And I have a couple of come over and bring something to occupy yourself while we both do nothing in the same space. Yeah, 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 exactly. Like, I know if my sister is going to come over and she knows that I'm having a bad day or something, she'll come over and we'll just talk or whatever. But also, if I tell her, like, I just need to be around someone without being around somebody, she's going to bring her tatting stuff and she's going to sit at the table and she's going to tat. Like, that's what she's going to do. Um, or, I've got some coloring books back here on my shelf and we'll just color. Those kinds of things where you have another human being, there's some sort of human interaction. They're with you in the house. And if you want to talk, you can talk, but don't force somebody to talk if they don't want to. So I'm going to share with you this um, this infographic right here. I think you guys should be able to see that. So this is from April 2015, but ignore that part. It's from the UK, and it's talking about supporting someone with depression. And it can be, this first line says it can be hard to know what to do when a friend or relative has depression. And I'll say that also it can be hard to even recognize and understand that someone does have depression. So it's always worth talking about your experiences because it might help somebody else open up. I read something somewhere a while ago that said even just being around someone, even if you aren't interacting with them, can be helpful. Absolutely. Yes. 100%. So some of the things to do is listen. We've talked about that. Encourage them to talk. And, you know, like I said, don't feel like you can't talk to them. If they don't want to talk, they'll probably tell you. But if you get them to talk, even if they don't want to, sometimes that is really helpful also. Spending time with them, like we were just talking about, that's a good one too. And don't dismiss their feelings. Again, there's that cheer up. That's it's such a common thing. It drives me nuts. For me, something I would note about that, the being here and listening and being curious and being present. Sometimes I get nervous when people start asking those hard questions and listening and being there because I do open up, but then people disappear. I get anxious about people supporting me for a bit and feeling better. Then they leave and I feel like the rug has been pulled out from under me. Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand that. And that's probably one of the reasons that, you know, it's easier for me to open up to my sister because where the hell is she going to go? You know what I mean? So it's yeah, that's hard. That's a hard thing. Yeah. I've got a couple of coworkers that, you know, I've talked to them, they've talked to me, and it's like, all right, we both work at the same company, but we're also friends on Facebook. We text all the time, all this other stuff. We're actually really good friends. And I feel like if they were uncomfortable with some of the things that I talk about and they just stopped talking, that would be a really difficult thing to go through. And I have one other thing that I want to show y'all. So this is a list, and not all of these will help you, but if you're struggling to make that list that we've talked about, these are some things you might consider whether or not they would help you when you are going through. And it doesn't have to be depression. Any mental health struggle. It's easier to open up to people who are going through the same kinds of thoughts. Absolutely. Even if the triggers are different, they can understand what you're going through on a deeper level, possibly. Yes. It's very difficult. Yeah. Yeah. So talking to someone who has experienced something of the same or at least someone who is willing to talk about their experience. If their experience is not the same as yours, my experience is not going to be the same as yours either. But I'm willing to talk about it, and there is a lot to be said for that. All right, so these are super nice things to do for someone who has depression. Substitute any mental illness there, pretty much. Chances are the room is a disaster and they have negative 846 motivation to do anything about it. So help them tidy up. I think that that's a good one. Do their laundry. I don't know. I don't want somebody doing my laundry because that's a little personal to me. But if I got no clean clothes and you offer to do my laundry, I'll probably say yes. Try to convince them to go for a short walk with you. There's a good chance they'll feel a lot better after. And I will say that if they don't feel a lot better after, don't feel like you failed either. That's one of those things that, yes, this could help, but even if it doesn't, you're getting them some sunshine, you're getting them some vitamin D, you're giving yourself a chance to talk to them, yourself a chance to connect with them. So there is something that can be said for that, even if it doesn't make that person feel better. If you can't get them outside, at least open a window for some fresh air and some sunshine. Prepare a healthy meal with some fresh fruits. Snow, you were talking about this earlier. Many depressed people fall into bad eating patterns. That's absolutely 100% true a lot of the time. I would love for someone to do my laundry, but they gotta fold it how I want and then ask where stuff goes before putting it away willy-nilly. Yeah, I understand. I understand that. Stacks mama's laundry in a pile and tosses a lit match on it. Hey, there you go. Buy me new clothes. Although, I don't know. I didn't have much motivation to shop. I hate shopping anyway. Like, shopping is just not fun to me at all. Grocery shopping, Christmas shopping. The only shopping that is fun is bookstores, craft stores, and Halloween stores. Those three things I am down for. Anything else? Clothes? Oh no, shoes. Four things. Shoes. I forgot about shoes. Shoes are awesome. Not just because they protect your feet, but because they're so pretty. My shoes that I wore on my wedding were covered in sparkly pink sequins, and they were really high heels. I love craft shopping. Yes, and shoes. Clothes shopping just makes me feel bad about my body, especially if you're in that state of mind. So careful with taking them out to buy something new. Take them out to buy a purse, something that is not focused on their body. Jewelry, if you want, jewelry or something like that. If you're willing to be generous enough to buy them something, maybe not clothes, at least for women. If they aren't eating enough, make sure they're taking multivitamins, and not getting enough of a vitamin causes depression. I don't know if I agree with this. I have not researched that at all, so I'm not quite sure. But I know that I did have a vitamin D deficiency, and when I corrected for that, it did help a little bit. It did not cure, and I do not think it was the cause. But the horrible mirror and the lighting in the dressing rooms, yeah. Make them a warm, nice smelling bath. Aromatherapy is a great way to treat depression, anxiety. It at least can help relax you a little bit without telling somebody to just relax. Write them a letter, a card to read for when they're feeling really bad. And this is such a sweet thing. Like, if you're willing to write a letter or a card and just say, look, here it is, right here, from me to you. Save it for when you really need a pick me up. Um, Make them a recovery playlist with some of their favorite songs and anything uplifting. And this is one of those things that their taste in music might not be the same as yours. So it's important to try to get this from your friends and family when they're not in a struggle state. My depression was caused by a chemical imbalance from a bad diet. So I believe in that. Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's, like I said, you need to always get your lab work and find out what issues are impacting you. Yeah. We don't have a good bathtub. I wish we had a really good bathtub, but we don't. Make them laugh. This can be really hard, but if you can make somebody in that state laugh, it will at least give their brain that little boost of chemicals, which can help. Make them a cup of tea and sit with them, or coffee, or hot chocolate, whatever. Listen to them, try to understand what they're feeling. Yeah. So that's just a couple of things that if you know someone who is struggling with a mental health issue, or if they are living with a mental health issue, so just a couple of things that you can do besides say just cheer up, because that's not to me, that is not a helpful thing to say. Just cheer up. I don't fit in either of our bathtubs. You can have them. We have just the standard size bathtubs, but you know, either your knees stick up or your shoulders stick up. I want one where you can sink down into it and not have to put your feet up at the end because it's too short. Oh, that's that. I don't know. So it's a little bit of a shorter topic than my last couple of mental health topics, but I thought that was a good one to just say, here are some things that might help you know what to say other than just cheer up, which is so difficult for some people to understand. It's hard for people to understand why that's even a bad thing. Like you're trying to engage with someone, you're giving them a piece of advice. What's bad about that? But the problem is, from a struggle state, you're already filtering in a negative way. And so, if you say to me, "Oh, mama, you're just depressed. Just cheer up." And I'm going, "Just cheer up," because now all of a sudden I'm like, my anxiety's in the background going, "Me, me, 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 me. Why didn't you think of that? What? They don't really care about you. They're not doing this." Or it's going, "Well, why didn't you just go ahead and figure out how to do that? Huh? What's wrong with you that you don't already know how to cheer yourself up?" And it's like I'm put into a state of mind where I am now causing further depression than what I was already experiencing. Not because you caused it, not because you caused it by saying just cheer up, but because in my own head is taking that one little sentence and chewing it into oblivion. Where if you said, "How are you feeling today? You seem a little down. Can you tell me how you're feeling and what you're going through?" Then it's like I can open up and express as much or as little as I want to express. I think the playlist thing, your point about making sure you actually get their favorite songs, not just things you think they'd like, yes. And especially trying to get that info while they're happy speaks to a larger what can you do to help, which is to be actively noticing and considering the person and what they do and say and listen to and eat, etc. Yes, right. Because I know that I have said, "Oh, I like this song," when I'm not in a struggle state, and then all of a sudden I get to my struggle state and I'm like, "Oh, I have never listened to these lyrics, and wow, they are actually really not helping my my situation right now." So you gotta talk to the person if you're going to do a nice gesture like that, and make sure that you understand their struggle, make sure that you understand the things that will help them, and make sure that they understand themselves as well a little bit and help them through that if you can. And if you can't, then encourage them to seek therapy and talk to a professional for sure. Um, I think of all of those things that we talked about, just offering to sit with somebody, that's most helpful to me. I know that, you know, I've been through some really heavy shit. And when I would, text her and say, hey, this is going on, she'd be like, I'm coming over. I've got a bottle of wine. We can do whatever you want to do. And she can come over and we can just drink or not even drink, just sit together, watch a movie, do something, not talking. And then there are other times that we talk all the time. And it's just like, I'm talking at her until she's blue in the face or until I'm blue in the face. But she is gracious enough to offer me that flexibility of, I understand that sometimes you get down. I understand that sometimes your brain is moving at 300 miles an hour and you just need to blab for a while to get everything out. For some people, it's that they need to internalize everything and not talk. And having someone who is willing to do that or being that person who is willing to do that for somebody else can be so powerful and can really help somebody through whatever they're struggling with. So I would definitely encourage you, if you have somebody who is struggling, to just be there with them, be present with them, and let let them deal how they want to deal without trying to force a solution on them that is really not a solution anyway. Every downtime is different as well and requires a different kind of therapy. Absolutely. Like I said, if my depression is higher than my anxiety, then I just have no motivation. My anxiety is higher than my depression, then I'm like, all right, I just need to move. I need to move. I need to move. I need to move. And for some people, that anxiety is actually the opposite. It's actually really paralyzing. And it makes them not be able to move. It makes them be like, okay, but they get into the what if situation. And for me, a lot of my processing is writing things down. It's, Fee will laugh at this. It's making spreadsheets, analyzing data, like as much hard data as I can get about that. And that's part of why I like to do these kinds of streams, because I enjoy the research. I enjoy that part of it. I enjoy looking stuff up. I enjoy trying to help other people. Yeah, the spreadsheet. It's true. It's got to be genetic. Ah, and so you never know how someone is affected. If I say, "Oh, I'm having a really bad um, depressive struggle day," you don't necessarily know what that means for me unless you've talked to me about it. Just like I don't know what it means for you if you say I'm having a really bad anxiety day. Because for me, my anxiety is very personal. It's very particular. For you, your anxiety is very personal. It's very particular. And anything else that could go for a lot of different, a wide range of struggles. And it's just, it's one of those things that unless you're willing to actually be a help to someone, you might be better off just leaving them be. Not ignoring it, but saying, look, I recognize that you're struggling in some way. I'm not equipped to help with that. But what I can do is just tell you that if you need something in particular, you can let me know. Any of those would be better than saying just cheer up, quite honestly. Uh, Okay, and now I hope y'all are ready for this. I hope beyond hope that you are fully prepared for this. The other day, it was like the middle of the night, and I was taking a shower. All of a sudden, the shower curtain rips open, scares the crap out of me, and it's my husband, and he goes, "Hey, why does Denmark barcode their warships?" And I'm like, "What? What the heck are you talking about?" So my heartbeat, calmed down a little bit, and I realized that it was not a serial killer trying to kill me while I'm in the shower because I thought he had already gone to bed. No, it's my husband saying, "Hey babe, why does Denmark barcode their warships?" That's him calling now. I need to answer here in just a second. And he he goes, "This is so bad." So when the Navy comes into port, or when the ships come into port, they can Scandinavian.